Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Franchising 360 show. I am Tim Parmeter, and this is Danielle Wright.
Hi.
And Danielle, we've got lots of things to talk about on the Franchising 360 show, but you've got like gear on.
I do.
As kind of do I, although mine's a little harder to see. You're like,
I'm all in it.
you're all in it.
When I go branded, I don't go back.
So because we've been doing this for like, what is this, like 10 episodes, 9 episodes?
I'm spending a lot of time with you.
Something
and it's
like
great.
Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it? And just if you're just tuning in for the first time, we're married, so we're allowed to talk.
And we're
like
in
this.
franchising.
And we're in franchising.
And we're taking a 360 view
of franchising.
There we go.
And because the show has grown in just popularity, like it's booming.
Yes.
That we now have some of our franchise partners that are like, whoa, how do we become sponsors and advertisers? So, and one of the ways in which they can do it, because let's be honest, my little company, Fran Coach, we've been footing the bill the whole time for this. So clearly, Fran Coach, if you're thinking about becoming a franchise owner or want to learn more, go to francoach.net.
but not .com. But
well, actually, .com too is fine.
oh, okay, good.
So yeah,
all of them.
Yeah,
All of
I
the
shelled
dots.
out finally and bought the .com.
You got all the dots.
We're ballers
That's
now.
great, Fran
right?
Coach.
So, but there's about 4,000 franchises out there in the United States, and some of them are like, ooh, how do we get on here? And some of the commercials you're going to see, I know everybody loves the Bad Job Aloma commercial, but we're maybe dial that back a little bit.
Yeah,
Which is sad.
maybe.
But we also can be the ultimate in advertising on our show is Danielle will wear whatever the heck you send her.
Oh, well, you might want to dial that back a little bit. Yeah. Okay. So we were
Her
just
husband will approve it first.
We just went to a conference where we got given a gift that I'm probably not going to ever wear.
No, probably not.
But that's a brand that's not on me right now, so I can't talk about it.
But we've got something on you. What you want to like share who this is?
Yeah, it's called Body Bar Pilates.
What do they do?
Pilates.
Nice. So Pilates is that thing with the thing you lay on that looks like the machine from the Princess Bride movie.
No, it's called a reformer.
Okay.
Are you familiar with a reformer? I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure you're going to start singing that song or some song that you feel is really close to.
You told me
being
last
a
time I was a great dancer, so am I a great singer also?
Yes.
Goodness gracious.
But that was a Mythbuster episode, so this is not a Mythbuster.
Yeah, okay.
So Body Bar Pilates is a Pilates boutique fitness franchise.
Yes.
That is got like 50 locations open. They've awarded 100. It's super fun. They have merchandise, as you can see.
Lots of merch.
That's my favorite part is the clothes, because we love some good clothes. We love some good athleisure wear.
Yes,
Like,
and really merch is really what it's
what
it's all about.
So
where it's Body Bar.
check out bodybarpilates.com. Feel free. Go
Yes.
in, jump in, take a class, mention Franchise 360. You can get in for free. I'm going to say that. I haven't gotten that approved, but we're going to go with that. Yeah.
If anybody gives you any trouble, just call Danielle. Right.
Yep.
So totally fine. And so tonight's episode is brought to you by Body Bar Pilates. It's always brought to you by Fran Coach, so that doesn't really count.
Yeah.
And then tonight's episode, we are going to talk about
funding a Body Bar Pilates.
or whatever.
We always talk McDonald's and all of these brands. We can now
we'll just use that one over and over for an example.
Totally.
So
thanks, Matt and Camille.
So we've got one of our like long and dear friends coming to talk to us about funding options today.
I know. And what was our last episode? Like, you don't have to have money to make money and to buy a franchise.
Right.
So
you need to know a guy.
Are you and this friend of ours going to have like some really deep conversations about funding? Because that sounds fun.
I think so.
That puts the fun in funding,
It does put the fun in funding. So awesome. Way to go. So we're going to put the fun in funding right after this with one option most people are going to have a pretty good idea about. And there's also one funding option that they have got no clue.
Ooh, tell me more.
I know. Suspense and drama coming up right after the break here on the Franchising 360 show. And we've got a guest coming in after this. So come right back. Hurry, I promise, on the Franchising 360 show. All right, we are back on the Franchising 360 show, and we have a guest joining us today to talk a little bit about all the different funding options that are out there. And joining us is the Senior Director of Business Development for really the premier franchise funding company, which is called FranFund. We have Ms. Shirley Kefgen. Shirley, how are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for having me.
Always a pleasure, and excited to chat with you a little bit about FranFund, all of the different funding options that are out there. I know you've been doing this a long time. You have Danielle and I have known you for like ever. I think in this franchising space. And give us a quick, like, really fast, like, how long have you been with FranFund? How did you kind of get into this?
Yeah, so I will actually be celebrating my 12-year anniversary with FranFund in January.
Awesome.
And yes, FranFund as an organization has been around for just about 18 years now. We really exist to sort of bridge that gap between aspiring business owners and the capital that they need to get there. So, we're not a bank, we're not a direct lending institution, but we facilitate some of the most popular funding strategies that get folks access to the capital they need to really get their businesses up and running.
Yeah, and I think with most things in franchising, people like they don't know nothing about nothing, right? And then certainly when it comes to funding, is how much do they need, how do they get it, all of those things, and so there's a handful of different funding options, but there's two kind of the most important or kind of most commonly used, I would guess. And so both of those are really things that you guys do. And the thing people can usually wrap their head around the easiest is a loan, right? So talk a little bit about what's out there loan wise and how FranFund can help.
Yeah. So oftentimes when folks start to explore borrowing to get a business up and running, what they hear about is almost exclusively SBA loans. Hey, go talk to an SBA lender. Hey, go get an SBA loan. And, these loans are coming from traditional banks and lending institutions. They get written to the business, and then the individual ends up signing a guarantee. So you do become personally responsible for these loans.
Right.
But the reason that you hear about SBA loans so often is that the government, the Small Business Administration, provides a backup guarantee to these banks that are writing these loans. So the lenders know that even in a worst case scenario, they are going to get the vast majority of their money back. And that's really what sort of incentivizes them to write these loans for new business owners today.
Why does the SBA do that?
To spur development of new business, to spur job creation,
Yeah.
Again, to make this capital available for business ownership across the country, really trying to, to access for more capital for more people.
Yeah, because it goes back to how massive the franchise industry is, right? And the amount of, just you mentioned just the amount of jobs that are out there in the ether in the United States from a franchise, and the SBA, the Small Business Administration, helping that happen with the loans. So, but like, how do we go about getting a loan? What are some of the maybe like the, is there a minimum or a maximum? What does that look like for folks looking at an SBA loan?
Yeah, I would say that the minimum that most banks out there will consider writing an SBA loan for is right about $100,000.
Okay.
Now, they can go up to $5 million. Depending on who you are, you might not categorize a $5 million business as that small anymore. But
Right.
these loans, they can go up to $5 million. A lot of banks out there will want to see that the borrower is injecting about 20% of the initial investment into the business themselves. Maybe it's 10%, maybe it's 30%. So there's, some room for variance there.
Right.
I would say 20% is a good rule of thumb to keep in mind. So, as folks are preparing for business ownership and they start to think, okay, my startup cost would be around $250,000. You would be responsible for putting $50,000 into the business yourself. The loan would then be for the other $200,000. So that 20/80 ratio is a pretty good one to keep in mind there.
Yeah. Which a lot of times I think it's easy for people to kind of grasp. It's similar to buying a house, right? We got to come up with a little cash, typically out of pocket, to get the loan. And then, are there any specific kind of requirements as far as, I know this can vary, right, over time, but as of 2020, late 2024, do we need like a certain credit score to be thinking about, or any other particular requirements?
Yeah, most banks will want to see a minimum credit score of 680 today. If we've had bankruptcies, foreclosures, or short sales, a lot of banks will want to see that those items are at least 5 years old, but they won't be automatic disqualifiers, right? If they're far enough in the past, we can still get through there. So minimum of 680 with a pretty clean credit history.
Gotcha. Okay. So 680, clean credit history, 20% ish down. How long does it actually kind of like take to get the loan for something like this?
That will certainly vary somewhat based on the specific lender. I
Yeah.
would say somewhere in the neighborhood of probably 45 to 90 days, depending on the specific lender. And then, if it's a brick and mortar business, right, we're
Right.
renting a physical location that our customers will come to, that loan won't close until the lease is executed and we're ready to start any of the improvements inside of that location. So that one might take a bit longer than maybe a loan for a business that someone's going to operate from their home. So there are
Right.
certainly some variables in timing, but I would say 45 to 90 days is a good average.
And like most things in franchising, there's not an exact answer, right? There's always going to be a little bit of a variance with that, but all of that are things that the team at FranFund can help with. And Shirley, I want to come back right after the break, and I want to talk about the other big funding option that is out there. Most people wrap their head around loans. Most people don't know what the other one is, and we're going to get back to that on the Franchising 360 show right after this. All right, we are back here on the Franchising 360 show, and joining us from the premier franchise lender in the country, FranFund, is Miss Shirley Kefgen. Shirley just talked to us about the SBA loan, which is probably the most common method out there to fund franchises. But there's this other thing. There's these letters. It kind of looks like the word ROBS. Shirley, what the heck is this ROBS thing? Is it just because it's named after somebody named Rob? Tell us what the heck this thing is.
No, it's the government gets creative with a really cool funding strategy, and then we end up with that name, is sort of what
Yes.
happened there. That acronym ROBS, it stands for Rollover for Business Startup.
Okay.
And it's basically a program that lets folks access money that they have in a 401k from an old job, maybe an IRA that they've rolled retirement dollars into. We might have veterans viewing, right? So maybe there's a TSP from time
Right.
in the military. But basically, it's a retirement plan that is not connected to your current job. And without paying income taxes or any early withdrawal penalties, folks can access that retirement savings and invest it into the stock of their new business rather than having it invested in, Best Buy or Apple stock or whatever other
Right.
options are out there.
So what you're saying is that I could take money from an old 401k and I could take that and actually use that to help invest in, either partially invest in or completely invest in a new franchise. That's something I can do?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you're not borrowing from or against your retirement plan. It's truly a diversification of your retirement assets.
But what about all of those
you're kind of
penalties, right? Does that have, like, if I just withdraw that money, I'm going to get dinged with penalties and tax. Does that happen with the ROBS?
does not happen with the ROBS because we're not withdrawing this money and just putting it in your pocket where it would be viewed as a distribution of income to you as an individual. We're truly taking this money and using it to buy stock in Tim's new business, which just happens to be a privately held company instead of a publicly traded company. So we're still making a qualified retirement investment. You're just kind of investing in yourself instead of investing your money out on the market.
Gotcha. Okay, so super cool. So I'm guessing most people, when they come to you guys at FranFund and you start talking about this, they have kind of that same reaction, like, wait, what? Really? I can do this? This isn't something that's really kind of widely known that's an option, correct?
Yes, I get a lot of, I can do what with my what? Like,
Right.
what are you talking about here?
Yeah.
So yes, you're definitely right about that. And you're right. I mean, it's been around since the 70s, right? This is part of the ERISA Act. So it's not something that was newly created to try to get around rules and regulations. It's just that, we're about a 98% referral driven organization, right? We don't do a ton of advertising, and it is certainly a specialized service. So not everyone, on the street is able to facilitate the program. But I think for a lot of folks, once they recognize that it's out there and that it's an option, it makes business ownership and franchise ownership even more realistic.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where, and I'm sure you experience this often. Every now and then somebody's like, oh my gosh, I couldn't possibly touch my retirement, right? But most people are going to see this as an amazing way to, wait, I can take my money and invest it, not in a stock, not in a mutual fund. I can invest it in myself. Like that's an awesome opportunity for folks.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I think too, it takes a minute to get your mind around it. But when you truly boil it down, at some point in your life, all of your money becomes retirement money.
Right.
It's just some of it you pay taxes on, some of it you haven't yet. And so I think when you really think about having the opportunity to access that money that you haven't yet paid taxes on and take control, right? Invest it into the stock of your own business. That shift, in mindset, I think is really helpful.
Yeah, so we don't get all the taxes and the penalties and things like that for doing this, but like doing the Robs, there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes with FranFund. It's also not free, so but there's a little bit of a fee for that and a little bit of a timeline. Talk us through that.
Yeah, so the fee for the ROBS program, it's $4,795. Nice round number for you there. I had mentioned veterans earlier. We do provide a discount to our veteran clients, so that setup fee would come down to $3,995. And that's a sort of turnkey start to finish. We're creating the C corporation, creating the new retirement plan, facilitating the transfer of the funds, issuing the stock certificates. The whole process itself usually takes about 4 weeks from start to finish.
Awesome. So that's super fast to be able to access all of that. And again, part of the process and kind of why FranFund is there. And we've worked with our team at Fran Coach and Danielle and all her past. We've worked with you guys at FranFund forever. And it's an amazing kind of customer experience with this, but you guys are there to help them every step of the way throughout this. Is that right?
Yes, we're trying to help ensure that our clients can focus on operating their businesses while we can help focus on compliance and maintenance and administration for the retirement plan itself. So
right.
Yes, we definitely take that ongoing relationship really seriously.
Yeah. And really same thing with the loan, right? Like the people every now and then are going to go, oh, I'll just roll down to, Bob at the local credit union. And I'm sure Bob can help me because we play golf together. Well, Bob doesn't really, no offense to Bob, but he didn't really know what the heck he's doing. That's the decades of experience. And you guys are going to know every single franchise inside and out to be able to help them, which really kind of adds that value of why somebody wants to work with FranFund, right?
Yeah, we have about a 99% success rate in terms of obtaining these loans for folks that we've provided a pre-approval letter to. Nationwide, it's a little under 38%. And it's because we know who to go to at the right institution. We've educated a lot of the banks that we work with on the value of the franchise model. So, Joe doesn't have to have industry specific or lenders to write them because they get the support and training and, just guidance along the table. So that has definitely proven to be really helpful.
Awesome. Yeah, no, and just from our clients, always have an amazing experience there. And if somebody's out there that is maybe wants to learn more about how they can personally get an SBA loan or that Robs, just go to franfund.com. Super simple, short for franchise funding. Again, we're really clever in this industry. And Shirley and all the amazing people at FranFund will be able to help you out. So Shirley, thank you so much for coming on to the Franchising 360 show and sharing a little bit about franchising and the funding options that we have.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always really great to see you.
Awesome. No, same here. And we'll be back right after this on the Franchising 360 show. And we are back on the Franchising 360 show, back at the headquarters here. At the table is Danielle Wright. Danielle, how about Shirley? Isn't she awesome?
She's amazing.
I know.
I was trying to find a different word than awesome.
Awesome or amazing or I don't know what other. But
exceptional.
Exceptional. All the vowel words, basically. So you and I have known Shirley for a long time.
Yes.
And
she's a deal worker, a magic person with a little wand.
And just their whole team is always amazing to work with. And so, but again, I think you can't overstress the fact of it's probably not one of those things you want to go try figuring out on your own, the funding stuff.
No, I think a lot of times I would prefer people to try to go to a FranFund or another group that we're not going to name right now, but kind of get a feel for it. I think you referenced home lending and pieces of that. Nowadays you can't go shopping for a house unless you get a pre-qualification kind of thing. So it's kind of the same thing. Just go in. I think their website has some easy tools that you can use to say what's the reality of what I would want to borrow and what comfortable payment are you willing to pay, and don't let that ever stop you, because even I think you guys talked a little bit about credit score. I think a lot of people get freaked out about that, but there's some unique opportunities out there for people that if your credit's not great, but you got a little cash, or your credit's great and you don't got a lot of cash, don't hear the word no. Hear the word maybe.
Right. Or maybe. And I think that's especially on the SBA side, if it's not a no, it's maybe not now, but their team is so good about saying, well, hey, this is how you would get that credit score up a little bit, or telling you this is the amount of cash that you need,
Right.
especially whether it's just in general or specific to a franchise, because they know all of the
You know, Body
brands.
Bar's done some deals with FranFund, so it's like pulling all of these things together tonight.
Excellent way to
Way to roll it in.
yes.
Yeah.
So
Thanks. I try.
we've got as we're sitting here, like, can you believe it's November 1st?
No.
It's kind of crazy.
Don't give me the Christmas countdown, though. I'm not ready. Can I just buy someone a franchise for Christmas?
Yes, that would be fantastic.
Yes, and.
Yes, and not me. So I think is how that goes. But we have as we get into, I thought this question is really amazing. It's from John in Atlanta. And
Thanks, John, for
so,
sending a question.
John,
You get a mug.
you get a mug.
Get him out of my house.
And right, but there's lots more, so keep those questions coming in. thefranchising360show.com. Send us any questions that you have. Any other questions, comments? Again, just the positive comments. We're really fragile still early on in this. We don't need the negative ones. We're hard enough on ourselves as it is, I think. So,
Okay. So
but
what's John's question?
John's question is about veterans. We've got Veterans Day coming up here very soon. Are there any special programs or advantages for veterans in the franchising space?
Yeah, I think if anybody wants to go turn into the Franchising 101 podcast, I think there'll be a great little episode talking about Vet Fran and that program with the IFA. And then a lot of franchises offer discounts on their franchise fees for veterans. And there's not a franchise I've not worked with yet that doesn't love a veteran working in their system. They follow the plan. They are very passionate about what they do. They want to give back to their community. They make the ideal franchise owners.
Going to work hard, right? Disciplined, dedicated, know how to figure stuff out.
And they love building a team. And that's something that's important too for longevity.
Yeah. And so to talk a little bit more about, because you threw out kind of Vet Fran.
I did.
And again,
I dropped some words, don't I?
And in franchising, I can't say this enough. We're really not that smart. So Vet Fran is
a program put through by the IFA to help veterans get into business ownership.
Right.
Through funding opportunities, like we were just talking, funding. There are specific lending options for veterans. There's obviously discounts on the franchise fees. So it's a group of veterans that work together to make sure you guys get benefits.
Yeah, as well you should. And so to go into this more, and I think what a perfect time of year to do that as we lead up until Veterans Day.
I think you have a guest.
We have another guest coming next week to talk more about Vet Fran and just the kind of the power of opportunity for veterans in this space.
This guest has also been in franchising longer than both of us.
Yes.
And worked with probably as many brands as I have.
We've referenced McDonald's a handful of times. Our next guest actually went to grade school with Ray Kroc.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's going to love that.
There's not a chance in heck he's watching right now. So,
yes.
So we're totally safe. But until next week, we are always at the Franchising 360 show. So if you would like one of these fancy mugs, you want to throw us a little question or comment, whatever, please do so there.
If you want me to wear your merch on TV, send it our way.
Yes, we will definitely do that. But until next Friday, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific.
What time?
8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. That's Danielle, right?
That's me.
I'm Tim Parmeter, and this has been the Franchising 360 show.